Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the fascinating world of ancient Egyptian technology, specifically, the ingenious way the Egyptians kept time. You probably won't survive this one unless you're okay with the idea of ancient priests obsessively keeping track of every hour with a mysterious, yet oddly soothing invention, the water clock. Picture yourself in ancient Egypt, surrounded by towering pyramids, the scorching desert heat, and a culture obsessed with the passage of time. It's not like today when we just glance at our phones. No, in ancient Egypt, time was sacred, measured in ways that might seem primitive now, but were vital to their way of life. The priests were the keepers of this knowledge, and they had a rather peculiar way of measuring the hours. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment about where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to hear from those across the globe, joining in on this relaxing journey under the spell of history. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's start by understanding the importance of time in ancient Egypt. Time wasn't just about knowing when to wake up or when to go to bed. It was far more significant. The Egyptians believed that everything in life had its proper time. The sun's movements, the flooding of the Nile, and even religious rituals followed specific cycles. The priests, who were both the spiritual and intellectual elite, played an essential role in managing these cycles. To ensure that everything was aligned, they needed reliable ways to measure time. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptians were the first to develop the water clock, but one thing is clear. Their version was both clever and practical. Picture it, a large container filled with water. As the water dripped steadily into another vessel, it would mark the passage of time. This was not just for the priests to monitor, it had practical uses for everyone. Whether it was timing rituals, managing work schedules, or even predicting the rise and fall of the Nile, the water clock became an indispensable tool. Now, take a moment to imagine the serene silence of the temple where the priests used these clocks. The water dripping steadily in the background, almost like a slow, rhythmic heartbeat. You're sitting there, listening as the time drips away. The idea of time as something that could be measured by a simple, yet ingenious mechanism must have felt like a gift from the gods themselves. After all, with such an important tool at their disposal, the priests could determine the best times for offerings, prayers, and even agricultural planning. They held the secret to managing the universe's rhythm. Historians debate how exactly the Egyptians fine-tuned these early clocks. Some argue that they used markings on the containers to track the time, while others believe they might have had more complex systems involving floating mechanisms. But whatever the method, it was clear that the water clock was essential to maintaining order in this highly organized society. As you continue to picture yourself in the vast, sun-soaked lands of ancient Egypt, the importance of keeping time becomes clearer. Time wasn't just a casual affair, it was something sacred, intertwined with their daily activities and the gods they worshipped. Now imagine that you're one of the priests who oversees the water clocks. You're not just timing your day, you're marking the sacred moments that connect the mortal world with the divine. Every drop of water is a reminder that the universe runs on cycles, like the rise and fall of the Nile, or the rotation of the stars in the night sky. You're standing in the shade of the temple, overseeing the clock's precise mechanism, the gentle sound of water dripping into its vessel creating a peaceful, almost hypnotic rhythm. The clock doesn't just keep time, it keeps the harmony between life, death, and the cosmos. These ancient Egyptians had a deep understanding of the natural world, and their methods reflected that profound connection. Each small task, the building of the pyramid, the harvest, the religious ceremonies, was linked to this delicate balance. The water clock was the tool that helped them stay in sync with the eternal rhythms that governed all things. Historians still argue whether water clocks were the sole method Egyptians used for tracking time, or if they used sundials as well. But one thing remains certain. No matter how sophisticated or simple the methods, the water clock was their most intimate connection to the divine cycles. To think that something as simple as water could mark the passage of hours and moments must have been a reminder of the infinite continuity of time. The water clock also had its limitations, as any ancient Egyptian priest would have known. The process was far from perfect. The water's flow could be affected by the temperature, humidity, and the size of the container, which meant that a drop in the water level might not always equal an accurate passage of time. Still, it worked, and it worked remarkably well. It was one of the first attempts by humanity to take something as intangible as time and give it a solid, measurable form. You're standing there in awe of the simple brilliance of it, the clock's steady drip synchronizing with the world outside, the movement of the stars, the phases of the moon, the seasons, the ebb and flow of life itself. As the sun begins to set over the land, the importance of your work becomes even clearer. The water clock marks not just the hours of the day, but the sacred passage of time. The drop of water is not just the ticking of the clock, it's the heartbeat of the cosmos itself. In that moment, the world around you seems to stand still, and you're reminded of the incredible responsibility you hold. You're part of a system much greater than yourself. The gods are watching, the stars are turning, and the water clock is ticking, a rhythm you're helping to guide. But as much as this system was about precision, it was also about understanding that not everything can be controlled. Historians debate whether the priests saw time as linear or cyclical. Some suggest that Egyptians had a concept of time as an endless loop, mirroring the seasons, the Nile's flooding, and the eternal life cycles of the gods. Others argue that they saw time as a finite journey, one that had a clear beginning and an eventual end. Regardless of how they understood it, the water clock was a critical piece in their worldview, a tool that allowed them to navigate both the visible and invisible realms. As the moon rises over the tranquil Nile, you find yourself observing the water clock once more, its steady rhythm breaking the quiet of the night. The gentle drip of water is a familiar sound, comforting in its consistency. It seems as though time, as you know it, flows endlessly like the river itself. The Egyptians saw the passage of time as deeply connected to the natural world, and they understood that their lives were governed by forces far greater than their own actions. This connection to nature was part of what made their culture so unique. Time wasn't simply measured, it was sacred. You're aware that the priest's job wasn't just about measuring hours or keeping the temple running on schedule. It was about understanding the cosmic order and aligning daily life with the will of the gods. When you check the water clock and see that it's almost time for the evening rituals, you know you are part of something larger, a cycle that ties the mundane to the divine. You don't just mark time, you participate in it, weaving the fabric of sacred moments that stretch far beyond the human world. But, like any priest, you know that you are also at the mercy of time. The clock's gradual water drip, which governs your rituals, doesn't stop for mistakes. If the clock runs too fast or too slow, the rituals will be interrupted, and this would be seen as an omen. Even the slightest inconsistency in the water flow could disturb the balance. That's why great care is taken with the water clock. The vessels must be positioned just right, the water must flow steadily, and every moment must be measured perfectly. It's no easy feat, and as you peer into the water clock, you realize how delicate the task is. It is your duty to ensure that time is kept, that every drop is accounted for, and that the temple continues in harmony with the heavens. Historians still debate whether the Egyptians saw their measurement of time as a practical tool or a spiritual one. Did they view the water clock simply as a means of tracking the day, or did it have deeper spiritual significance? Some suggest the water clock had a sacred role, representing the eternal flow of time and the unchanging nature of the divine. It wasn't just a way to divide the day, it was a cosmic reminder of the gods' unyielding control over the world, a symbol of the cycles that governed life, death, and rebirth. But whether they viewed it as practical or spiritual, one thing is clear: the Egyptians had a profound respect for time. It was not something to be wasted. Time was a gift from the gods, and to waste it was to invite misfortune. Every hour, every moment had purpose. In the stillness of the night, you begin to understand why time had such weight in the ancient world. It wasn't just about the hours passing, it was about the story that each moment told. With the stars now visible overhead and the water clock marking yet another hour, you realize how deeply the Egyptians understood the connection between time and the natural world. Their daily life was rooted in rhythms, the rhythm of the river, the rhythm of the sun, and the rhythm of the water clock. You are part of this ancient dance, and as you watch the water drip, you realize that you are, in some small way, connected to the very cycles of nature itself. The time has come for the evening ritual. You glance at the water clock once more, checking the level of water in the vessel. The water is slowly trickling steady, but there is an underlying pressure in the air, a pressure to get it right. You walk across the stone floor of the temple, the soft echo of your sandals the only sound accompanying the flickering of oil lamps. The priests who work alongside you are already preparing the altar, lighting incense, and preparing offerings. The task you've been entrusted with, keeping time, is no small responsibility. It's not just about marking the passing hours, It's about the alignment of the earthly with the divine. As you move into position beside the water clock, you notice the precise movements of the others, each one coordinated, as though they are following a script written by the gods themselves. The delicate balance of rituals relies heavily on your ability to track time accurately. A slight delay could mean the difference between divine favor and anger. The gods, after all, were known for their strictness when it came to rituals. Even the slightest misstep could upset the delicate harmony between the earthly realm and the divine one. With this in mind, you begin the ritual with reverence, the water clock still dripping steadily beside you. Every drip echoes in the silent room. You begin by carefully observing the flow of water. The timing must be exact, the hours measured with the utmost precision. The priests gather around the altar, chanting prayers, their voices reverberating off the high walls of the temple. They raise their hands in unison, as if drawing down the blessings of the gods. You feel a sense of unity as the ritual progresses, the water clock ticking away, each drop an invisible marker in the progression of time. At this moment, it strikes you that the water clock, while an instrument of measurement, is also a conduit between the mortal world and the divine. With every drop, time flows forward, marking each action and reaction. It's as though the very rhythm of the clock is linked to the heartbeat of the universe. The gods, through their divine order, oversee this flow. And here, in this moment, you are the keeper of that flow. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians truly believed that the water clock was imbued with magical properties, or whether it was just a very practical tool. Some scholars suggest that the water clock wasn't only a way to measure time, but also a tool that connected the priests to the cosmic forces they worshipped. Others argue that it was purely a mechanical tool, used for practical reasons like organizing rituals and ceremonies. But no matter the debate, there's one thing that can't be denied. The water clock was essential to the way the ancient Egyptians viewed and respected time. You breathe deeply, feeling a connection between the water dripping in the vessel and the time passing in your life. As you finish the ritual, you make a mental note of the time, watching as the water level drops further. You've fulfilled your role, ensured that the gods were properly honored, and maintained the sacred balance of the world. As the final prayers are recited, the night deepens, and the sounds of the temple fade into the background. The water clock, quiet now, stands as a testament to your work. The stars shine brightly through the temple windows, and for a moment, you feel as though you too are part of a larger cosmic rhythm. The gods watch over this delicate balance, and you are but a small part of the vast, eternal dance. The next day, you find yourself back at the temple, ready to begin again. The ritual of timekeeping is relentless, a constant in your life. The water clock awaits you, still perched on its pedestal, the vessel that will help you navigate the hours. As the sun rises, its rays stream through the temple's columns, casting long shadows that stretch across the stone floor. The warm light feels comforting, a reminder that, despite the heaviness of your responsibility, the world continues its cycle, unbothered by the passing moments. You reach for the water clock, feeling its cool surface as you prepare to measure the hours once more. It's a simple task, yet there's an undeniable importance in its simplicity. The water drips steadily, each drop marking the passing time. You begin the process of recalibration, adjusting the flow of water to ensure that the timekeeping is precise. The act feels almost meditative, as though you are aligning yourself with the rhythm of the universe. As you adjust the clock, you think about how the ancient Egyptians viewed the passage of time. They didn't see it as a linear progression like we do today. Instead, time was cyclical, much like the seasons, the Nile River's annual flood, or the rising and setting of the sun. Time was something to be observed, not just measured. And you, as a priest, were tasked with observing it in the most sacred of ways. It wasn't just about knowing the time of day, it was about being attuned to the natural world and the rhythms that governed it. You take a moment to watch the water flow, your mind drifting along with it. The steady rhythm of the water dripping from the vessel becomes your focus. You feel the weight of the task settle over you. Timekeeping in the ancient world wasn't just about recording minutes and hours, it was about ensuring that the gods were kept in harmony with the natural world. You were the conduit between the two realms, and with every drop of water, you were doing your part to maintain the cosmic balance. As the day progresses, the other priests gather around, preparing for the next round of rituals. You step aside, feeling a sense of satisfaction in your work, knowing that the water clock is keeping time with perfect accuracy. The priests move toward the altar, their voices rising in unison as they begin their prayers. The soft murmurs of their voices blend with the sound of water dripping from the vessel, creating a soothing symphony. The ritual is both peaceful and powerful, and you can feel the energy of the temple surround you. Historians still debate the full scope of the ancient Egyptian understanding of time. Some scholars argue that their timekeeping methods were driven purely by practical necessity, while others suggest that the Egyptians saw time as a more spiritual concept, closely tied to the cycles of the cosmos. Some even argue that the Egyptians' focus on timekeeping was influenced by their desire to connect with the gods and ensure that the world remained in balance. Whatever the case, one thing is clear: the water clock was more than just a mechanical device. It was a symbol of the Egyptians' profound understanding of time, their reverence for the divine, and their dedication to maintaining the harmony of the natural world. As the sun begins to set, you take your leave of the water clock, knowing that you've once again fulfilled your role. The temple is quiet now, the last rays of light fading into darkness. The water clock, still ticking, stands as a quiet reminder of the passing time, its rhythmic drops echoing in the stillness of the temple. As night falls over the temple, you retire to your quarters, the day's work still lingering in your mind. The water clock's ticking sound is etched in your thoughts, a constant reminder of the precision and duty that fill your life. You know that tomorrow will bring more of the same: the steady flow of water, the quiet rituals, and the never-ending passage of time. But tonight, in the stillness, there is a moment of peace. The hum of the temple is replaced by the soft sounds of the night, the occasional distant howl of a jackal, the rustling of palm trees outside your window, and the subtle shifting of the desert wind. As you settle into your bed, the day's events replay in your mind. You think back to the moments when the water clock's flow was perfect, when the timekeeping was precise, and how satisfying it felt to ensure that the sacred balance was maintained. Yet, there are other moments too, moments when the flow of water wasn't quite right, when adjustments had to be made. Those moments were rare, but they always carried a weight, as though the gods were watching closely. You never want to be the one to falter, to let time slip away unchecked. Lying there, you drift in and out of sleep, your thoughts wandering between the realms of consciousness and dreams. The world of the gods and the world of men are never far apart in your mind. You know that time, as you measure it, is a reflection of something greater. The Egyptian understanding of time wasn't just practical, it was sacred. The gods themselves were bound by time, and so too was the fate of the land. The seasons, the river's rise and fall, and the movement of the stars were all connected to the divine order, and you were a part of that order. Time, as you understood it, was a bridge between the mortal world and the realm of the gods. In your half-sleep, you begin to dream of the river, the great Nile, its waters flowing in perfect harmony with the cycle of time. The river was more than just water, it was life itself. Every year, it flooded the land, bringing fertility and growth, and with it, the promise of a new cycle. The ancient Egyptians saw this flood as a gift from the gods, a renewal of life. And just as the Nile followed its annual course, so too did time move forward, endlessly repeating, yet always offering the chance for rebirth. Historians still debate the symbolic meaning of the Nile flood in Egyptian culture. Some argue that it was seen purely as a natural event, while others suggest that the flooding of the river was deeply tied to the Egyptians' spiritual understanding of time and renewal. Regardless of the interpretation, one thing remains clear: the Nile was inseparable from the Egyptians' understanding of life and death. It was both a source of sustenance and a reminder of the cyclical nature of existence. You drift further into sleep, the sound of the water clock steady ticking in your dreams. The night stretches on, and you rest, knowing that when the morning comes, the temple will once again be filled with the sacred task of measuring time. The sun will rise, and with it, the rhythm of the world will continue. You will awaken to another day of keeping time, and the sacred duty will begin again. But for now, you are at peace, floating between the worlds of the waking and the dreaming, as time continues its unceasing flow, both within and around you. The morning light pours into your room, the soft rays casting gentle shadows across the walls of your quarters. You awake, feeling the weight of the day ahead, but there's a comfort in the predictability of your routine. It is a routine steeped in centuries of tradition, passed down through generations of priests who have come before you. The water clock calls to you, a silent reminder of the task at hand. It is time to begin another day of precise timekeeping, of ensuring that the rhythm of life continues without interruption. You know the gods expect it. As you make your way to the temple's inner sanctum, you pass other priests and workers going about their daily duties. The air is thick with the scent of incense and oils, the temple's sacred space always alive with the soft hum of activity. You see the other timekeepers already tending to the water clocks, adjusting the flow, making sure each one is synchronized. The temple runs like a well-oiled machine, each part moving with the precision of the gods themselves. Your task today is simple. Ensure that the flow of the water remains steady, that each hour is marked with accuracy, so the ritual can proceed without delay. The water clocks, scattered throughout the temple, are positioned in key locations, ensuring that no moment of time goes unmeasured. The sound of water gently trickling into the basins is a comforting rhythm, a constant reminder that time, despite its seeming immensity, is always slipping away. It flows like the river Nile, ever moving forward, never stopping. The steady flow of water is mirrored by the flow of life itself. There is no room for error. One wrong adjustment, one misplaced drop, and everything could be thrown off. But the task has become second nature to you. You know the clockwork of the temple, the ebb and flow of time, as though it has become a part of your very being. As the day progresses, you oversee the rituals and ceremonies, all of which are timed to perfection. The priests chant their prayers, the offerings are made, and the sacred fire burns brightly in the temple's heart. But there is something more, something beyond the physical task of keeping time. You sense it in the air, in the way the priests move, in the quiet reverence that fills the room. Time is more than just a measure of hours. It is a connection to the divine. It is the pulse of the cosmos, the heartbeat of the gods. The water clocks are not merely tools. They are conduits between the mortal world and the divine. Historians still debate whether the Egyptians saw their timekeeping devices purely as functional instruments or as sacred tools tied to their religious beliefs. Some scholars argue that time was seen as a divine order, a rhythm established by the gods themselves. Others suggest that timekeeping was a practical necessity for organizing the complex religious and agricultural schedules of ancient Egypt. Regardless of the interpretation, the link between time and the divine is undeniable in Egyptian culture. The act of measuring time was, in many ways, an act of communion with the gods, an acknowledgement that life itself was governed by a higher order. As the sun begins to set, you find a brief moment of respite. The day has passed in its steady, predictable rhythm, and the temple is alive with the soft murmurs of prayer. The water clocks, still flowing with perfect precision, continue their silent work. You stand for a moment, observing the sacred space around you. The knowledge that time is in your hands brings a strange comfort, a sense of purpose. The water clocks have guided you through another day, just as they have guided the priests before you, and will guide those who come after. The temple, bathed in the fading light of day, feels both timeless and ever-changing. The rituals, the ceremonies, the prayers, all are woven into the fabric of the temple's existence, just as time itself is woven into the fabric of the universe. The water clocks, though simple in design, hold within them the power to connect the mundane and the divine, to measure the fleeting moments that comprise life itself. As you leave the temple, the night air cool against your skin, you feel a deep sense of satisfaction. You have kept time once again. The flow of water continues, uninterrupted, as it has for centuries, carrying with it the weight of history and the promise of the future. Tomorrow, you will do it all again. But for now there is rest. The night will pass, the water will continue to flow, and the cycle of life and time will begin anew. The next morning, the temple seems quieter than usual, though it is still filled with activity. You hear the murmur of voices, the soft scraping of stone as the workers prepare the temple for another day of rituals. But something feels different today, something almost imperceptible. The steady rhythm of the water clocks remains unchanged, their trickling flow marking the passage of time, but you cannot help but feel a sense of unease in the air. Perhaps it is the weight of the upcoming ceremonial events, or perhaps it is simply the knowledge that the gods themselves watch over everything you do. You move through the temple with practiced ease, ensuring that the water clocks are properly adjusted, that the flow is just right. The rhythmic sound of the water trickling into the basins is familiar to you, a comforting presence that has become as much a part of the temple as the stone pillars and sacred altars. But today, as you adjust the dials and monitor the water flow, you notice something unusual. One of the clocks is not running as smoothly as the others. The water seems to be dripping more slowly, more erratically. You pause, squinting at the device, unsure of what could be causing the disruption. The other priests, busy with their own duties, seem unaware of the issue. But you know that the smallest deviation in the water clocks could have consequences. Time must be measured precisely, or the delicate balance of the temple rituals could be thrown off. You inspect the water clock more closely, your fingers gently tracing the surface of the basin, feeling the coolness of the water against your skin. A faint clog seems to have formed in the tube, a minor issue, but one that could become significant if left unattended. Historians have long wondered whether the ancient Egyptians had a perfect system for timekeeping, or if, like all systems, it was subject to occasional flaws and disruptions. Some scholars believe that their timekeeping was incredibly precise, relying on the careful craftsmanship of the priests who built and maintained these devices. Others argue that the water clocks, while ingenious, were not immune to the occasional mechanical failure. In any case, the importance of keeping time properly cannot be overstated. The timing of ceremonies and rituals, the alignment of agricultural cycles, and even the rising and setting of the stars, all depended on a flawless measurement of time. As you work to clear the obstruction in the water clock, you are reminded of the ever-present tension between order and chaos. In the temple, everything must run smoothly. Every step, every action, must be in harmony with the greater cosmic order. But out here, in the world beyond the sacred walls, there are always forces at work that threaten to disrupt the flow. The water clock is not just a tool for marking the hours. It is a symbol of the delicate balance between order and disorder, between the divine and the mortal. You finish your repairs and step back, watching as the water once again flows smoothly through the clock. The gentle trickle is a sound you've come to rely on, and now, with the device functioning properly, a sense of calm washes over you. The rituals can proceed. The gods are watching, yes, but they are also counting on you to keep the time, to ensure that everything runs as it should. You feel the weight of that responsibility, but it is one you've taken on willingly. After all, the flow of time is in your hands. The rest of the day passes in a blur of rituals, prayers, and offerings. The water clocks remain steady, their flow never faltering. You move between the different timekeeping devices, adjusting them here and there, ensuring that each one remains accurate. It is a task that requires patience, attention to detail, and a deep respect for the sacred nature of time itself. The rhythm of the day seems to fall into place with each tick of the clock, each passing moment perfectly measured. As the sun begins to set, you stand outside the temple, watching as the last rays of light filter through the palm trees. The air is cooler now, the warmth of the day giving way to the stillness of evening. You feel a sense of peace, knowing that another day has passed, and the water clocks have done their job. Time, as always, has moved forward uninterrupted. You can hear the soft, steady sound of the water flowing through the temple, and for a moment, everything feels right with the world. Tomorrow, the cycle will begin again. But for now, you allow yourself a moment of rest. The rhythm of time is relentless, but it is also constant, like the Nile itself. It flows ever onward, carrying with it the weight of history, the promise of the future, and the steady pulse of life itself. The following morning, the first light of dawn filters through the grand columns of the temple, casting long shadows on the cool stone floor. The usual chorus of temple workers and priests has begun, footsteps echoing, murmurs of conversation blending with the soft hum of bees from the nearby hives. Your morning ritual has started, like it does every day, with a careful check of the water clocks. You glide through the halls, your sandals making soft sounds on the stone, the slight click of your staff echoing as you move toward the sacred room where the timepieces are kept. You stand before the water clocks, watching the delicate flow of water as it trickles steadily from one container to the next. The rhythmic motion is soothing, like a pulse marking the heartbeat of the temple. The water clocks are at the center of everything here, the key to determining the exact moment for rituals, for offerings, and even for mundane tasks like meals. Without these precise measurements, everything would fall out of sync, and the carefully cultivated order of life here in the temple would break down. Today, the morning feels different. There is an energy in the air, a subtle shift that you can't quite explain. It is as though the temple itself is holding its breath, awaiting something. Perhaps it is the upcoming festival to honor the gods, or maybe it's just the weariness that has begun to set in after countless days of uninterrupted duties. Your hands instinctively move toward the first water clock, checking the flow with the practiced movements of someone who has spent years in this sacred place. You adjust the flow ever so slightly, ensuring it's neither too fast nor too slow, just perfect. As you adjust the clocks, you take a moment to observe the intricate designs of the mechanisms. You've never tired of looking at them, their elegance and simplicity offering a beauty that transcends time. It's said that the ancient Egyptians had perfected these timekeeping devices over centuries. These clocks were built to last, not only for their functionality, but also for their symbolism. Time in ancient Egypt wasn't simply a measurement of hours, it was something divine, something sacred, and these clocks were a direct reflection of that divine order. Historians still debate the origins of these early water clocks. Some suggest that the Egyptians borrowed the idea from earlier cultures, while others argue that the Egyptians were the true innovators, developing these devices independently. Either way, it's clear that they saw time as an unbroken, eternal force, flowing just like the waters of the Nile itself. The river, in many ways, was the ultimate symbol of time, bringing life to the land and dictating the rhythms of agriculture, of floods, and of harvests. Much like the river, the water clock mirrored the same predictable flow, measuring life's moments with unyielding precision. As the day progresses, you move from clock to clock, ensuring that each one is in perfect working order. Each one is a delicate masterpiece in its own right, with its own intricate carvings and designs, each element carefully crafted to ensure the flow of time is as perfect as possible. The beauty of the water clock is not just in its mechanical function, but in its design, a reflection of the world itself, ordered, balanced, and in harmony with the gods. But no matter how carefully you check the clocks, there is always something to be adjusted. The water level can fluctuate slightly, a droplet can fall too quickly, or the delicate balance between the chambers can shift. It's a reminder that no system is ever truly flawless, and that even in the sacred, there is the potential for imperfection. And yet, there's something comforting in that imperfection. After all, even the gods themselves are not immune to the chaos of the world. They too must live with the ebb and flow of time. The temple's daily activities continue around you. Priests prepare the altars for offerings, the hum of bees and workers fills the air, and incense begins to rise, blending with the scent of fresh papyrus. You are a small part of a much larger system, and yet in your role, you carry the weight of time itself. Without the water clocks, none of the rituals would take place at the right moment. Without you, the temple's daily rhythm would falter. As you step back from the final clock, everything seems in perfect order. The water flows, steady and uninterrupted. The day ahead stretches before you, filled with the promise of rituals, offerings, and sacred moments. You feel a sense of accomplishment as you step outside into the sunlight, the warmth of the sun wrapping around you like a familiar embrace. The day is yours to command, and the clocks will keep time for you, as they have for generations of priests before you. Historians often marvel at the sophistication of these ancient timekeeping methods. They were not just practical tools, they were works of art, symbols of the divine, and testaments to the genius of the priests who maintained them. The water clocks were as much a part of the temple's spirit as the prayers spoken aloud. They measured not just time, but the very essence of life itself, flowing in unbroken cycles from one moment to the next. As you head deeper into the heart of the temple, the sounds of the outside world fade away, replaced by the stillness of the sacred space. The day is moving on, but for now there is peace. You are in sync with the rhythms of the temple, with the flow of time, and with the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, you move toward the temple's inner sanctum. The air grows thicker with incense, swirling around you as you pass priests and acolytes, who are busily preparing for the afternoon rituals. You've spent countless days here, checking the water clocks, ensuring the ceremonial rites align with the divine cycles of time. Today, however, something feels different. There's a quiet hum in the air, an anticipation that makes your skin tingle. It's as if the temple itself is waiting for something to happen. The sacred space feels alive, and you are but a humble servant, moving between the shadows, carrying out your duties with practiced precision. Today, you're not only maintaining the timepieces, you are overseeing the grand ritual that will happen at dusk. The water clocks must function flawlessly for the ritual to take place exactly at the designated time, marking the transition of the sun from day to night. This transition is as sacred as any other in the temple, the moment when the world is held in suspension between light and darkness. Without the precision of the water clocks, there could be no ceremony, no prayer, no connection to the divine. Everything hinges on these small, but incredibly important instruments. As you check the water clocks again, your thoughts begin to drift. The sound of water trickling through the channels is soothing, an almost meditative rhythm that mirrors the steady beat of your heart. You can't help but think of the priests who've gone before you, the generations of men who have performed this same ritual, ensuring that the flow of time never wavers. The beauty of these timepieces is in their simplicity, their ability to measure something as intangible as time with nothing more than the steady flow of water. The history of these water clocks stretches far back into the mists of time, and historians have long debated their origins. Some argue that the Egyptians were the true masters of water clocks, while others suggest that similar timepieces were used in Mesopotamia and India centuries before the Egyptians refined them. Regardless of their origins, it is clear that the water clock was central to Egyptian society, integral to both the rituals of the temple and the practicalities of daily life. It was the sacred heartbeat of civilization itself. You move through the temple halls, your sandals softly tapping against the stone, as you make your way to the great hall where the ritual will take place. You've been a part of many ceremonies, but this one feels different. There's a weight in the air, a silent anticipation that clings to the walls. It's almost as if the gods themselves are watching, waiting for the precise moment when everything aligns. You pass by an altar, its incense smoke curling in the air, and you pause for a moment to make an offering, a small prayer for the success of the ritual. As you step into the grand hall, you see the priests preparing the altar, setting out offerings and placing sacred objects on the raised platform. There is a reverence in their movements, a grace that comes from years of training. You join them in the center of the room, ready to oversee the final moments before the ritual begins. The water clocks, now checked and rechecked, will guide the timing of the ceremony. Every detail, every moment is important. The moment when the sun begins to dip below the horizon must be timed perfectly, and the water clocks, with their delicate balance of water and time, will mark the transition between day and night. The sun's light filters through the high windows of the hall, casting long shadows on the floor. The air feels cool now, the warmth of the day slowly ebbing away as the sun sinks lower. You take your place by the water clocks, your hands steady as you watch the water slowly moving through the channels. The ritual is about to begin, and you know that it must be flawless. The slightest miscalculation, the smallest misstep, could throw everything off balance. But you are prepared. You've done this 1,000 times before. As the water clocks reach their final moments, you hear the distant sounds of chanting, the priests' voices rising in unison as they begin the sacred prayer. The room fills with the hum of anticipation, the quiet rhythm of time ticking away, and the collective heartbeat of the temple. The gods are watching, the ritual is beginning, and the water clocks are guiding the way. You glance at the water clocks one last time, watching the water's steady flow, and for a moment, you let yourself feel the weight of your role in this ancient tradition. You are not just a keeper of time. You are a part of something much larger, a link in an unbroken chain of history, a servant of the gods, ensuring that the cycles of life, death, and rebirth continue without interruption. The moment is at hand. The water clocks have fulfilled their purpose, the ritual is underway, and the gods are pleased. As the ritual progresses, you find yourself lost in the steady rhythm of the water clocks. The flow of water is almost hypnotic, like the heartbeat of the temple itself. The sounds of chanting grow louder, echoing off the stone walls, blending with the soft drip of water. It's a beautiful, almost meditative moment, and you can feel the power of the gods in the air, an invisible force that fills the space, pressing down on everything and everyone inside. The priests continue their prayers, invoking the gods, each word a reverent offering. Their voices rise and fall like waves in the sea, and you can sense the weight of history in their tones. You know that this moment is not just about the gods, it is about you too. The timepiece in your hands is the key to everything that happens here. Without your steady hand, without your attention to detail, the ritual would falter, the gods' attention would wane, and the cycle would be broken. But you've prepared for this. You've spent years training in the temple, learning the art of the water clock, understanding the flow of time in a way few others can. You know that every drop of water represents a moment in time, a fragment of eternity. The water clocks are not mere instruments, they are sacred tools that hold the world together. Each tick, each drop, is a reminder that life moves forward, that time waits for no one, not even the gods. As you watch the water move in its channel, you can't help but think of the ancient Egyptians, who were the masters of these clocks. They understood that time was not just something to measure, but something to worship. They believed that time itself was divine, a gift from the gods, and that understanding its flow was a way to connect with the eternal. Their temples, their rituals, their very way of life were built around this understanding. You too are part of that legacy, a small piece of the great chain that stretches back thousands of years. Historians still debate the origins of the water clock. Some believe it was first developed by the Egyptians, while others suggest that the Chinese or the Greeks may have had a hand in its creation. Regardless of its exact origins, the water clock became a cornerstone of ancient Egyptian culture, used not only in the temples but also in everyday life. It marked the hours, measured the passage of time, and ensured that the rituals of the gods were performed at the right moment. For the Egyptians, time was sacred, and the water clock was the means by which they could measure the divine. You continue to observe the water clocks, your hand poised over the mechanism, ready to adjust it if needed. The tension in the air is palpable as the final moments of the ritual approach. The priest's voices grow louder, the chant rising to a crescendo. You can feel the power of the moment building, and you know that this is the point where everything must align: the water clocks, the sun, the ritual, and the gods themselves. In the quiet moments between the priest's chants, you take a deep breath, feeling the weight of your responsibility. The water clock is your connection to the gods, to the temple, to all of history. Without it, the ritual would be incomplete. And so you continue your work, your focus absolute, knowing that each drop of water is a gift, a moment of time you hold in your hands. As the ritual reaches its peak, you can feel the temple vibrating with energy, the air thick with the presence of the divine. The water clocks tick steadily, marking the passage of time, guiding the priests as they complete their prayers. You are part of this ancient dance, a link in the chain that connects the gods, the temple, and the world of men. It's a humbling thought, but it also brings you peace. The water clocks continue their steady rhythm, marking the passage of time as the ritual comes to its conclusion. The gods are pleased, and the earth is in balance. The ritual has been completed, and the cycles of life and time continue, unbroken. You step back from the clocks, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over you. The gods have been honored, the ritual fulfilled, and the water clocks have done their job once again. As the echoes of the final prayers fade into the temple, you can feel the weight of the moment lift. The ritual is complete, and the gods have been appeased. But now, in the quiet aftermath, there is a sense of calm that settles over you. The water clocks are silent for now, their job done, but their power remains. The timepieces have played their role in the grand cycle, marking the flow of time and ensuring that the divine order is maintained. In a way, the clock is more than just an instrument. It is a bridge between the mortal and the divine, a reminder that time itself is a gift from the gods. You stand in the temple, watching as the priests move about, preparing to close the sacred space. The incense still lingers in the air, mixing with the earthy scent of the water channels, and for a brief moment, you close your eyes, taking in the peace that surrounds you. It's a quiet that's rare in the world of the living, a stillness that connects you to the ancient rhythms of the earth and the heavens. The temple itself seems to breathe with you, its walls pulsing with the energy of the rituals that have taken place within. Historians still argue about the role of water clocks in Egyptian society. Some suggest that the clocks were used primarily for religious rituals, while others point to their practical use in regulating daily life, from determining work hours to tracking the changing of the seasons. Either way, the water clock was an integral part of Egyptian life, a tool that helped keep time in sync with the divine order. And as you stand there, amidst the quiet reverence of the temple, you realize that you are part of this timeless tradition. The knowledge of the water clock, passed down from priest to priest, has ensured that the rhythms of the earth and the heavens continue unabated. It's a responsibility that weighs heavily on you, but it also brings you a sense of purpose. For in this quiet moment, you understand that the work of the priests and the timepieces is not just about rituals. It's about ensuring that the balance of life continues, that time flows as it should, and that the God's will is carried out in every moment. As you step out of the temple, the cool evening air greets you, the faint rustle of the wind carrying the scent of the river. The world outside is quiet, too, as if it, too, is holding its breath after the sacred ceremony. The waters of the Nile glisten in the fading light, their flow as steady and unyielding as time itself. And for a brief moment, you find yourself lost in the beauty of it all, how the natural world, the water clocks, and the rituals are all connected in a cycle that never ends. The night begins to fall, and the stars twinkle above, each one a symbol of the passage of time. It's in these quiet moments, when the day has come to a close, that you truly understand the importance of your work. The water clocks, the rituals, and the gods, they are all part of a larger, eternal cycle that stretches across the heavens and the earth. You may be just a small part of it, but your role is no less important than that of the gods themselves. As you make your way back to your humble quarters, the weight of the day settles on your shoulders. You've done your part, ensured that the gods have been honored, and the rhythms of the universe continue to turn. You may be just one among many, but your work with the water clocks has connected you to something much larger than yourself. And in this quiet reflection, you understand the true significance of time, not just as a measurement of moments, but as a divine force that shapes everything in existence. The next morning, you wake early, the sun just beginning to stretch its golden rays over the horizon. The air is cool, and the bustling life of the temple begins to stir. As a priest, you are accustomed to the early hours, the ritual of waking before dawn, the preparation for the day's ceremonies. The water clocks in the temple are already in motion, marking the steady passage of time. But today there is something different in the air, a quiet anticipation, as if the very earth itself is holding its breath. As you move through the temple grounds, you pass the sacred pool where the water clocks are maintained. The pool is fed by a steady stream of water from the Nile, its ripples spreading in perfect symmetry. You pause for a moment, watching the way the water flows and the way the timepieces, crafted with such care, regulate the passage of moments. The precision of their movement is hypnotic, and for a fleeting moment, you lose yourself in the rhythmic pull of the water, feeling the pulse of time in the very core of your being. Today, you are to oversee a new ritual. It is a solemn one, and you can feel the weight of responsibility settle on your shoulders. The ceremony is to mark the transition of the seasons, an important moment in the agricultural calendar. The priests have gathered in the temple to prepare, and as you join them, you are reminded of the importance of these moments. The changing of the seasons is not just a natural event. It is a divine one, a time when the gods renew their covenant with the earth, and the cycle of life is affirmed once more. Historians still debate whether the Egyptians used water clocks primarily for religious purposes, or whether their practical uses, such as marking the hours of the day or regulating the flow of labor, were equally significant. Some argue that the clocks were strictly religious symbols, while others suggest that their role in daily life was just as important. Either way, it's clear that these timepieces held a sacred significance, their role in the rituals of the temple intertwining with their practical function as a means of regulating time. As you prepare for the ceremony, you are reminded of the delicate balance between the sacred and the practical, between the divine and the earthly. The water clocks symbolize this balance perfectly. Each drop of water that flows through their channels is both a moment in time and a reflection of the eternal cycle. You understand now, more than ever, that time is not just something to be measured, it is something to be honored. The ceremony begins with the offering of incense and the reading of sacred texts. The water clocks are placed before the altar, their gentle ticking a reminder of the flow of time, of the gods watching over the earth, of the cyclical nature of life. You stand at the head of the gathering, your voice steady as you recite the ancient prayers. The priests, all around you, join in harmony, their voices rising in unison. The sound of the words is like a pulse, reverberating through the stone walls of the temple, filling the air with the weight of tradition. As the ritual unfolds, you notice something. The steady ticking of the water clocks seems to sync with the beating of your own heart. There is a connection between you, the timepieces, and the very rhythm of the universe. In this moment, you realize that the water clocks are not just tools, they are living symbols of the divine order, keeping time not just for the priests but for the gods themselves. The ceremony flows like the Nile, each moment following the one before it, each prayer building upon the last, until the ritual reaches its climax. The timepieces have done their work, and the ceremony concludes. The earth has been honored, the gods have been appeased, and the cycles of life continue unabated. As the priests disperse, you feel a sense of peace settle over you. The water clocks are silent once more, but their work remains, marking the passage of time in ways both seen and unseen. You understand now that the work of the priests is never truly done. The rhythm of time continues, the water flows, and life goes on, one moment at a time. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the temple begins to buzz with activity. The priests gather for their midday meal, but before you join them, you take a moment to walk through the outer gardens. The sacred grounds of the temple are a testament to the balance between nature and the divine, where the elements of earth, water, and air come together in harmonious beauty. You walk slowly, your footsteps quiet against the well-worn stone paths, as the scent of blooming lotus flowers fills the air. The cool breeze brushes past you, carrying with it the faintest hint of the Nile. You approach a small alcove where the priests maintain their tools for the water clocks. The delicate instruments, though simple in their construction, are a marvel of precision. Some are made of stone, others of bronze, but all are designed to measure the passage of time with accuracy and grace. You watch as the water slowly drips through a series of small openings, the sound like a soft sigh in the stillness. You have become so attuned to the rhythm of the clocks that you can almost hear them in your sleep, each drop of water a heartbeat, each moment a life unfolding. As you sit down with the other priests to break your fast, the conversation turns to the task at hand. The upcoming festival is drawing near, and preparations must be made. The festival, like the water clocks, marks a significant moment in the year, a celebration of the gods, a reaffirmation of the divine order. But unlike the quiet, measured passage of time, this event will be loud, joyous, and filled with spectacle. There will be music, dancing, and feasting, all in honor of the gods who govern the cycles of nature. You think back to your work earlier that day, the ritual performed, the incense burned, the sacred texts read. The priests are now discussing the details of the festival's offerings, and your role in the grand scheme of things becomes clear. It is not enough to simply keep time. You must also honor the gods through actions that symbolize your devotion. Time itself is sacred, but how you spend that time, how you mark the moments, is just as important. Historians still argue over the exact role of timekeeping in ancient Egyptian society. While it is clear that water clocks were used in religious rituals, some scholars suggest that their function went beyond mere symbolism. Did the priests use these timepieces as tools to regulate labor, to structure their daily routines? Or were they purely religious objects, meant to serve as instruments of divine order? Either way, it is apparent that the water clocks played an essential role in shaping the rhythms of daily life, both spiritual and secular. As you finish your meal, the midday heat intensifies, and the sounds of the temple grounds become more distinct. The chatter of the priests fades as you return to your tasks. You pass through the hallways where the walls are adorned with intricate carvings of gods and kings, their forms frozen in time, yet their presence still palpable. The temple is more than just a place of worship. It is a reflection of the cosmos, a microcosm of the divine order. Each stone, each inscription, each act of devotion is a part of the larger tapestry that sustains the world. The afternoon stretches before you, and with it, a deep sense of purpose settles over you. The day moves forward, and you move with it, your footsteps in rhythm with the passage of time. You know that the festival, with all its revelry, will come to an end, but the work of the priests, the work of the timekeepers, will continue. Time, in all its forms, will march on, as it always has, and as it always will. The water clocks tick, the hours pass, and you feel connected to the past, the present, and the future. Your role, small though it may seem in the grand scheme of things, is vital. You are part of the divine order, part of the eternal rhythm that governs the world. And as long as the water flows and the clocks measure, so too will life continue, each moment flowing into the next, as inevitable as the coming of the dawn. As the evening draws near, the temple begins to cool under the settling night air. The once bright sky fades into deep shades of purple and gold, and the flickering lamps within the temple cast dancing shadows on the walls. The priests begin their evening rituals, a quieter, more meditative time of the day, where offerings are made and prayers are recited in reverence. The rhythm of the day is winding down, just as it always has. You too find yourself caught in this rhythm. The water clocks are checked again, the steady trickle of water signaling the passage of time. It is almost comforting, the soft plunk of water against stone, a constant that never falters. The familiar sound echoes in the corridors, and you move through the halls as if guided by the very passage of time itself. There is a sense of serenity that comes with the evening, as though the world is slowing down to rest. You make your way to the sacred pool, its still surface reflecting the light of the candles flickering nearby. Here, in this peaceful space, the cycles of life and time seem to align. The ripples of water, caused by the soft evening breeze, create a momentary distortion in the reflection, reminding you that even in stillness, change is constant. As you kneel beside the water, you cannot help but think of the gods who govern all of this, the cycles, the seasons, the days and nights. They too move in their own eternal rhythm, much like the water clocks that you tend to with such care. You know that the work you do, though it may seem small to others, is vital in maintaining the balance of the world. The gods are pleased with those who honor the flow of time, for time is sacred, a gift from the heavens. You take a deep breath, inhaling the cool night air, filled with the subtle scent of incense. The stars begin to twinkle above, each one a point of light in the vast expanse of the cosmos, just as the priest's prayers become one with the rhythms of time. The moon, rising high in the sky, casts its pale light over the temple, and you feel a sense of peace settle over you. In this quiet moment, all is in harmony. The world continues to turn, and you, the humble keeper of time, are a part of it. Historians still debate the deeper meanings behind the timekeeping rituals of ancient Egypt. Some suggest that the use of water clocks was a practical necessity to track time for both religious and agricultural purposes. Others argue that these rituals were symbolic acts, designed to link the mortal world with the divine. Perhaps it was a little of both. What is clear, however, is that the use of these timepieces was not just about marking the hours. It was about connecting with the gods, honoring the cycles of life, and understanding one's place in the grand scheme of existence. You rise from your position beside the pool, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The evening ritual is almost complete, but the work of timekeeping will continue into the night. The priests will offer their final prayers, and the water clocks will continue their quiet ticking, keeping time as they always have. The day has come to a close, but in the world of the temple, time never truly stops. The night deepens, the candles flicker low, and the temple falls into a gentle stillness. You walk slowly, feeling the cool stone beneath your feet as you make your way back to your quarters. You are not alone in this. Every priest, every servant, every worker within the temple is bound to this rhythm, this eternal flow. You are part of something larger, something that transcends time itself. As you retire for the night, you cannot help but smile. Tomorrow will come, and with it, the same cycles will begin again. The water clocks will measure the passing hours, the priests will chant their prayers, and life will continue on, ever flowing, ever changing. And you will be there, watching, waiting, ensuring that time is kept, as it always has been. The next morning comes quietly, as the first rays of sunlight begin to seep through the narrow windows of the temple. You awake to the familiar sound of the water clocks in the next room, each steady drip a reminder that the rhythm of time has already begun again. The priests have already started their morning prayers, their voices rising in unison to honor the gods. You stretch and stand, the air still cool, the scent of fresh linen and incense filling the room. The day ahead will mirror the one before, but every moment holds its own significance. You move through the temple's halls, passing by the sacred statues of the gods, their eyes eternally watching, eternally waiting. In the early morning light, the stone faces seem almost alive, their expressions full of meaning, as if they can see into the very depths of your soul. The soft steps of your sandals on the stone floor echo through the temple, a comforting sound that connects you to the priests, the workers, and the gods themselves. Today, like every day, the first task is to check the water clocks. You make your way to the chambers where they are kept, a place full of cool, damp stone and the constant, calming drip of water. The clocks are pristine, as they always are. Their delicate construction, slender stone containers filled with water, small channels carved into the walls, ensures that time flows smoothly, without interruption. These clocks are an art form in themselves, a beautiful union of practicality and devotion. As you check the water clocks, you feel a deep sense of responsibility. It's not just the mechanical process of monitoring time that drives you, but the understanding that these clocks connect the earthly realm to the divine. Time is sacred. Every drip of water represents a moment, a fleeting instant in the cycle of life that must be honored. The priests, in their solemn chants, know this truth, and you, as the keeper of time, hold it as well. The priests are beginning their daily rituals now, their voices rising and falling in harmony with the ticking of the clocks. The temple is alive with the sounds of prayer and devotion. The sun continues to rise higher, and you step back into the light, feeling the warmth on your skin. As the day stretches ahead, you move into your next task, overseeing the offerings to the gods. This is another crucial moment in the daily cycle, for the offerings must be timed just right. Each god is honored at specific times of the day, and the water clocks ensure that everything is done according to divine order. You supervise as the workers prepare the grains, fruits, and precious oils that will be presented to the gods. The fruits, harvested at their peak, glisten in the light, their colors vibrant and fresh. The grains are carefully sifted, their kernels full of life. You watch as the workers arrange everything with care, ensuring that each item is presented with reverence. The priests begin their chants as the offerings are made, their voices echoing through the temple, rising toward the heavens. You stand back, watching with a sense of quiet pride. This is your work, too. The cycles of time that govern the temple are intertwined with the rituals that fill it. Time itself becomes sacred when it is used to honor the gods. Historians often debate whether the early Egyptians saw timekeeping as a purely practical necessity, or whether it held a more spiritual significance. Some argue that the water clocks were simply tools for daily life, used to ensure that the priests and workers followed the correct schedule. Others believe that the clocks were an integral part of the temple's spiritual practices, bridging the earthly and divine. What is clear is that time was never just a measurement in the temple. It was a part of the ritual, a constant reminder of the divine order that governed both the heavens and the earth. As the offering ceremony concludes, you step away, feeling a sense of quiet fulfillment. The temple hums with the energy of the gods, the priests, and the workers. The day stretches out before you, filled with tasks and duties, each one connected to the sacred flow of time. You know that, as always, you will return to the water clocks, ensuring that the passage of time is marked, revered, and honored. The sun climbs higher, and you move into the next phase of the day. The rhythm of life continues, uninterrupted as it always has. The water clocks continue their steady drip, the sounds of prayer fill the air, and the temple remains a place where time and the divine exist in perfect harmony. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, you settle into your next task, the upkeep of the sacred scrolls. The scrolls contain the rituals, prayers, and sacred knowledge passed down through generations. They are delicate and ancient, each scroll a testament to the wisdom and devotion of those who came before. You carefully unfurl the first scroll, feeling the smooth texture of the papyrus beneath your fingers. The ink, still dark and bold, is a work of art, flowing like the river that runs through the land, an eternal reminder of the divine. The scrolls contain the prayers that align with the water clocks, guiding the priests through their daily duties. The prayers are carefully written, each word chosen for its spiritual significance. You pause for a moment to reflect on the importance of this work. It's not just about keeping the temple running smoothly, it's about preserving the connection between the gods and the people. These prayers and rituals are the lifeblood of the temple, and your role in maintaining them is vital. You carefully roll up the scroll, making sure it is stored properly, ready for the next use. The scribes who worked on these scrolls were meticulous in their work, often spending days writing each one. The ink they used was made from soot, mixed with water and plant resins, and the papyrus came from the riverbanks, harvested and processed with great care. Historians still debate whether the scribes saw their work as purely functional or as an act of devotion. Some argue that they were simply recording knowledge for practical purposes, while others believe that the act of writing was itself a form of worship, a way to honor the gods through the written word. The process of caring for these scrolls is a task you take great pride in. It's an opportunity to connect with the sacred texts, to breathe life into them once again through your careful handling. As you move from scroll to scroll, you are reminded of the long line of priests and scribes who have come before you, each one adding to the knowledge that has been passed down for centuries. As you continue your work, the temple around you begins to fill with the sounds of activity. The priests begin their daily chants, their voices rising in harmony with the ticking of the water clocks. The workers move about, preparing the temple for the rituals that will take place throughout the day. The smell of incense fills the air, a fragrant reminder of the divine presence that fills every corner of the temple. You take a moment to step outside, feeling the warmth of the midday sun on your skin. The air is thick with the scent of the river and the crops that grow along its banks. The sound of the water flowing in the distance is soothing, a constant reminder of the flow of time and the life that it sustains. You watch as the workers move in and out of the temple, each one carrying out their duties with a sense of purpose. Everything in the temple, from the priests to the workers to the very water clocks themselves, is connected by the thread of time, woven together in the service of the gods. Historians often debate whether the ancient Egyptians saw time as a divine force or simply as a tool for organization. Some suggest that time was seen as a gift from the gods, a sacred rhythm that governed every aspect of life. Others argue that the Egyptians were more pragmatic in their use of time, seeing it as a practical tool for managing the temple and agricultural cycles. Regardless of the interpretation, it is clear that time played a central role in Egyptian society, not just as a measure of hours and days, but as a sacred force that connected the earthly realm with the divine. As you return to the temple, you feel a sense of peace. The water clocks continue their steady drip, the prayers fill the air, and the sacred scrolls are carefully preserved for future generations. Everything in the temple moves in harmony, a testament to the careful balance that the priests maintain between the gods and the earth. And you, as part of this sacred tradition, continue your work, knowing that each moment, each task, is part of a greater whole, one that has been in motion for thousands of years. As the day wears on, you move toward the central courtyard where the water clocks stand, their mechanisms still operating with quiet precision. These clocks, with their ever-flowing water, are more than just timekeeping devices. They are symbols of the gods' control over the natural world. The steady drip of the water echoes through the air, providing a calming rhythm to the bustling temple. It's the sound of life itself, pulsing through the walls of this sacred space, marking the passage of time in a way that only the gods can truly comprehend. You watch as the temple workers move between the clocks, checking the water levels and ensuring that each device is functioning properly. The water clocks are a marvel of ancient engineering, their design simple yet ingenious. The Egyptians were able to measure time during the day and night by using the flow of water, a perfect alignment with the natural world they revered so deeply. As the water level rises, the markings on the clock reveal the hours that have passed, each droplet a moment in the larger cycle of the day. The water clock itself is a hollow vessel, often made from stone or clay, with a hole at the bottom that allows water to slowly drip out. Some clocks had markings along the side that indicated specific intervals of time, while others used a float mechanism to keep track of the passing hours. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians used these clocks for practical purposes, like scheduling religious ceremonies, or if they were primarily symbolic, representing the eternal flow of time in the hands of the gods. As you approach one of the clocks, you notice a small group of young priests gathering around, observing the device with great interest. They seem entranced by the slow drip of the water, watching it fall drop by drop into the vessel below. Their eyes are filled with wonder, as though they are witnessing the very hand of Ra, the sun god keeping time. You smile, understanding their reverence for such a simple yet profound tool. Time, for the ancient Egyptians, was not just a concept, it was a living entity, something to be honored and respected. One of the young priests speaks, his voice low and reverent. "Do you think the gods feel the passage of time as we do?" he asks, his eyes still fixed on the water clock. "Or are they beyond it?" You pause for a moment, considering his question. It's a question that has been asked for centuries, one that has no simple answer. The Egyptians believed that the gods existed in a timeless state, unaffected by the passage of hours or days. And yet, they also understood that the world of the living was governed by time, by the cycles of the sun, the moon, and the stars. Time, in a way, was both a gift and a limitation, a reminder that all things must eventually return to the earth. Historians still debate whether the Egyptians saw time as a divine construct or as a natural force. Some suggest that time was viewed as a reflection of the gods' eternal nature, while others argue that it was simply a tool for organizing the chaos of the world. What is clear, however, is that time played a significant role in every aspect of Egyptian life. It was in the ebb and flow of the Nile, in the rising and setting of the sun, and in the careful marking of the hours by the priests. Time, for the Egyptians, was not something to be ignored or taken for granted. It was a sacred rhythm, one that connected the mortal world with the divine. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the courtyard, you step back from the water clock and reflect on the day's events. The priests are finishing their work, preparing for the evening rituals that will mark the end of the day. The air is cool now, the sounds of the temple beginning to settle into a peaceful rhythm. You feel a sense of peace yourself, knowing that the water clocks continue to measure the hours, their steady drip a reminder of the ongoing passage of time. The temple, once bustling with activity, is now quiet. The water clocks continue their work, ticking away the hours, while the priests prepare for the night. The stillness of the moment is comforting, as though the whole world is taking a deep breath, waiting for the next cycle to begin. Historians often wonder whether the ancient Egyptians ever truly understood the vastness of time, or if their understanding was limited to the cycles of the sun and the moon. Some believe that their perception of time was rooted in the natural world, while others suggest that their spiritual beliefs shaped their understanding of the concept. Regardless of the answer, it's clear that time held a deep significance for the Egyptians, from the water clocks to the grandest temples and the smallest rituals. As the stars begin to twinkle overhead, you feel the weight of the day lift from your shoulders. Time, in its infinite flow, continues on, and you are part of its cycle, just as the priests are, just as the gods are. The steady drip of the water clocks, the passage of the sun, and the turning of the earth, these are the rhythms that connect us all across time and space. The night settles around you, and as you gaze at the darkened sky, the world seems to slow. The once bustling temple now lies in stillness, the sounds of the water clocks softly echoing through the air. You can almost feel the gentle pulse of time, like a heartbeat in the silence. The priests have finished their evening duties, and the sacred grounds of the temple are quiet, save for the faint murmurs of prayers and rituals whispered in the darkness. In the dim light, the water clocks continue their work, the slow drip of water falling into the waiting vessel. It's a rhythm that is both calming and eternal, a reminder that time, though fleeting, is constant. You walk past one of the clocks, the water barely visible in the low light. The steady trickle of the water is soothing, its quiet sound a lullaby for the soul. Time, for the ancient Egyptians, was never just a measurement. It was a presence, a force that connected the mortal world with the divine. The priests who tended to these clocks were not simply keeping track of hours. They were maintaining the balance of the cosmos, ensuring that the cycle of life continued as it should. As you move deeper into the temple grounds, the grandeur of the surroundings becomes more apparent. The massive stone columns rise like ancient trees, their intricate carvings depicting the gods and the great pharaohs who ruled Egypt. The walls are adorned with hieroglyphs, each one telling a story of creation, of death, and of rebirth. Time, it seems, is woven into every aspect of Egyptian life, from the water clocks to the art on the walls. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians viewed time primarily as a cosmic force or as something more practical, a tool for managing their daily lives. Some believe that the Egyptians saw time as a reflection of the eternal nature of the gods, a way to understand the unchanging cycles of the world. Others suggest that the water clocks were simply a necessary invention, born out of a practical need to measure the passing hours. Either way, it's clear that time held a profound significance in their culture, from the smallest ritual to the grandest of temples. You stop for a moment, admiring the beauty of the temple, the way the stone reflects the faint light of the moon. The air is cool and still, and you feel a deep sense of connection to this place, to the ancient priests who once tended these sacred clocks, and to the gods who watched over it all. Time, in its infinite flow, is not something that can be controlled or contained. It is a force to be revered, one that transcends the mortal realm. The priests, too, understand this deep connection to time. They have spent their lives studying the stars, the cycles of the sun, and the movements of the heavens. Their role is not just to keep time, but to interpret it, to understand how the passing hours and days reflect the larger workings of the universe. In the stillness of the night, you can almost hear the hum of the temple, as if the very stones are alive with the knowledge of ages past. Time, in this sense, is not just a mechanical system. It is a living force, one that governs the flow of life and death, of creation and destruction. The priests believe that the water clocks are a direct link to the divine. By maintaining these clocks, they ensure that the passage of time remains in harmony with the will of the gods. The steady drip of water is not just a way of measuring hours. It is a sacred act, a ritual that honors the eternal cycles of the universe. And as you stand there, watching the water fall, you feel a deep sense of reverence for the wisdom of the ancients, for their understanding of time and their place within it. Historians often wonder whether the Egyptians truly believed that their timekeeping methods had divine significance, or if they simply viewed them as practical tools for organization. Some suggest that the water clocks were part of a larger religious framework, tied to the belief in the gods' control over the natural world. Others argue that they were a more secular invention, driven by the need to maintain order in society. Whatever the case, one thing is clear. The Egyptians' understanding of time was deeply intertwined with their religious beliefs, and it continues to inspire awe and wonder to this day. As the night grows deeper, the temple falls into a peaceful silence. The only sound now is the soft drip of water from the clocks, marking the passage of time in the stillness of the night. You feel yourself slowing down, the weight of the day lifting from your shoulders. The ancient rhythms of the temple, the steady pulse of time, seem to wrap around you like a blanket, bringing a sense of calm and tranquility. In this moment, you understand why the ancient Egyptians revered time so deeply. It was not just a measurement of hours. It was a connection to the divine, a way to understand the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. As you stand there watching the water drip, you realize that you too are part of this eternal flow, this unbroken rhythm that stretches across time and space. And with that thought, you allow yourself to drift off, the soft sound of the water clocks lulling you into a peaceful sleep. As the dawn approaches, the soft light of the rising sun begins to filter through the temple's columns, casting long shadows across the stone floor. The water clocks, though still quietly ticking away the seconds, seem to take on a new life in the early morning glow. The rituals of the day will soon begin, as priests prepare to offer their prayers and make their daily sacrifices to the gods. But for now, in the quiet stillness of the temple, there is peace. You sit there for a moment, lost in the tranquility, feeling a deep sense of connection to the ancient world around you. The priests, now busy preparing for the day's work, move with practiced ease, their movements as rhythmic and deliberate as the passing of time itself. The water clocks, still ticking away, seem to mark not just the hours, but the moments of their lives, reminding them of the cycles they are part of. Their role is simple yet profound: to maintain the balance of time, ensuring that the sacred order of the universe is upheld. It's easy to forget how much time means to us today, with our digital clocks, our smartphones, and our constant awareness of the ticking clock. But for the Egyptians, time was something far more significant. It was a living force, a sacred rhythm that connected them to the gods, to the earth, and to the heavens above. The water clocks, with their steady flow of water, were a direct representation of this rhythm, a reminder that life, like the water, was constantly moving, constantly flowing. As you watch the priests move about, performing their duties, you realize that their understanding of time was far more than just practical. They saw time as a force that shaped their world, that governed everything from the rising and setting of the sun to the changing of the seasons. The water clocks were not just tools, they were symbols, representing the eternal flow of time and the interconnectedness of all things. Each drop of water that fell into the vessel was a reminder of the passing of time, of the cycles that governed life and death, creation and destruction. Historians still argue whether the ancient Egyptians saw time as a divine force or as something more utilitarian, a practical system for organizing their lives. Some suggest that the priests viewed time as a reflection of the gods' will, while others argue that the water clocks were simply a means of keeping track of the hours, a necessary tool for the administration of daily life. Whatever the case, one thing is certain: time, in the form of the water clocks, played an integral role in Egyptian society, shaping not just their daily routines, but their understanding of the world around them. As the morning sun rises higher, you find yourself drifting off, the peaceful rhythms of the water clocks and the gentle hum of the temple lulling you into a deep, restful sleep. The ancient world, with its rituals and its wisdom, fades into the background as you sink further into the quiet of the night. The sounds of the water clocks, though faint, continue to echo in your mind, a gentle reminder that time, in all its forms, is always with us. The Egyptian priests, now moving through their rituals with quiet reverence, know that they are part of something much larger than themselves. They are the keepers of time, the guardians of the rhythms that govern the universe. And as they perform their duties, they too are reminded that time is not something to be controlled, but something to be revered, something to be honored. As you drift off into slumber, you feel the weight of the ancient world around you, the sense of connection to something greater, something timeless. The water clocks, ticking away the seconds, are a reminder that time, in its endless flow, is always present, always moving, and always shaping our lives. The rhythms of the past, the cycles of the earth, and the eternal passage of time continue, whether we are awake or asleep, whether we are conscious of them or not. And in this moment, you find peace, knowing that time, like the water, flows on forever.